Hello, my name is Deborah Anamkweku. I'm your instructor for the IELTS speaking test at debguide Educational Institute. Let us start. We are just going to look at the overview of the general IELTS speaking test. We will be looking at test 1 today. So the overview. We said, looking at the description of the IELTS speaking test, we said it's an oral interview between a candidate and an examiner. So it is a direct interview between a candidate and examiner. This type of test is not written test, but rather the examiner will ask you general questions of which you will give him an answer, him or her an answer. The answer that you are going to give will determine whether you are going to be given the correct band in order to be able to pass the test very well. Good. We said it lasts between 11 and 14 minutes. Generally, the IELTS speaking test is divided into 3 parts. We'll be looking at the first part, which is called the part 1. In this part, you will answer general questions. The examiner will ask questions about things which are close to you. You may be asked about yourself, your home, your family, your work, your studies and interests. This part will definitely last for, let's say, 4 to 5 minutes. In maximum is 5 minutes. So you are going to take this aspect of test this afternoon. Good. So we look at the overview. We've already looked at the overview. So what is the main objective for the speaking test or the interview test, as I normally put it? They want to get some things from you. Basically, the aim of the speaking test is to assess candidates' ability to communicate effectively in English. How you can communicate effectively in English? You want to travel and school abroad. Is your English language very rich? If it is not rich and we are going to do an English taught program, it means that you are going to suffer. So they would like to use this one to assess your ability to communicate effectively in English language. Now, based upon that, the examiner will consider the following areas. So the examiner will consider the following as you speak. So these are the areas the examiner is going to consider. First, they will check on your fluency, how you flow. Now, the language must flow like water. Then coherence. Is that okay? The coherence. Now, moving from how you build points, how you link one sentence to the other, when you are using the correct linkages to be able to make your language very rich. Now, the lexical resources. Are you bankrupt? Do you have rich English that you can use anytime you are expressing yourself? The grammatical range, the depth of your language. How depth is the language you are speaking? They will also look at accuracy, and then your pronunciation. Mostly, you cannot have the direct accent like somebody from the Queensland or somebody living in Australia. We Africans have our own accent. Let me say Ghanaians, we have our accent. Nigerians have our accent. But are the pronunciations correct? If you are not pronouncing a word correctly, if it doing as much as it shouldn't sound like you are from the Queensland. Phonetically, the language you are speaking, your pronunciation must be exact as the word is pronounced. Good. So let us look at the steps we will consider how we will prepare for the speaking test 1. There are a few steps that I have outlined that I want us to follow, and one way or the other it will be of help. First, you say make sure you know the right English vocabulary you might use to talk about familiar topics such as home, family, job, course, and many more. That means they are unlimited. Familiar topics you can talk about. When we start, we'll be looking at common examples. Good. The second point is that do not think you will meet some selected topics of your choice during the examination. Just read wide to cover as many as possible topics. Now, what does this aspect mean? That means because I've given example like home, family, job, course, and many more, a student or a candidate may decide to just prepare familiar topics on family, hoping that he is going to meet family. But the examiners decide the kind of topic that they will bring at a point in time. So if you are falling purely for home or family, and you go and everything that you are being asked is about course of study, you realize that you'll be short of ideas and you will not have the rich vocabulary to use. So only thing you need to do is that you have to study wide, cut your net wide to be able to get much vocabulary for the selected topics. There is a trend which will be moving on from here. Good. So do constant practice with your study mate or friend. Yes, you need to do constant practice. After you have gotten much of the resources by yourself, just practice. Practice makes man perfect. So the more you practice, the more you become good at what you are doing. So practice more. Then prepare for different types of questions and topics. That is, this session is battling or answering the session for point 2. You should be ready for unexpected topics that are familiar, because you can't know everything which is familiar about you. But when you read wide, you will be able to get it when it comes. But what we are saying is that be ready to expect surprise. It shouldn't be what you think you know. Be expecting surprise when you are going for the examination. So looking at the common forms in which most of the questions are asked, we can look at some of the commonest formats. We have how often. It's a common form of question which can be asked almost every time. How often? How often, when you are being asked how often, what it means is that you are being asked a number of times something is being done. What is your favorite food? How often do you prepare that food? So let me say you're talking about your favorite food is probably rice and beans. How often do you prepare it? You prepare it probably twice a week or thrice a week. So every week you prepare it 3 times. Is that okay? Then we look at the second one. How long? So in as much as this one starts with how and this one is also starts with how. This one is how often, which is talking about number of times something is done. And how long here is also talking about length of time, a given duration. So the length of time, it can be a longer time frame. How long have you been coming here? How long have you been at this place? How long have you been practicing IELTS? How long have you been preparing for your interview? How long have you been preparing for these exams? So we're talking of how long, we are talking about the length of time. But how often, we are talking about the number of times something is being done. So you can just look at the differences. Good. Now we come here where definitely we're talking about place something is done. Then we got who. It's a relative pronoun. So it's talking about person. Good. And when, definitely we are looking at time. And then we also look at what, which is talking about type. What kind of food do you have? What kind of food do you want to prepare? What type of people do you want to meet? So anytime you hear what, know that it is going to talk about the type of something. So mostly questions are often being put along this line. So whilst you are preparing, you should be able to also generate questions as you have been able to get the familiar topics, as you have gotten the familiar topics of your choice. Try to enrich your language. You try to generate questions using some of these parameters. Then you infuse your words into it whilst you are practicing with your study mate or colleague. It will go a long way to help you in your IELTS studies. Other form of question that you can also see as command, starting most of your major questions are this: can you? Do you like? What is your favorite? Do you usually? Do you prefer? Do you ever? Have you ever? So let us look. Can you? Can you? So over here you can clearly see that one can you means that you are being expected to do something. Can you prepare a certain kind of dish? Can you design? Can you give me the direction to your house? Good. Do you like eating outside? Do you like eating at home? Do you like going out with friends? Good. What is your favorite sport? What is your favorite form of entertainment? Okay. Do you usually come here? Do you prefer? Do you ever? Have you ever? So more often you will see that the question may be towing this direction. So all you need to do is to try your best to be able to fuse these parameters I've given you into your questioning. And with that, the more you practice, you see that you become very good at the IELTS preparation. Now, if this is going to be with you, then I can tell you that you will really do well. What we are going to look at now is we are going to look at the techniques, how to approach the questions. Yes, many a times we are being told that you try to speak more. Yes, it's good to speak more, and you don't have to be giving direct answers and simple answers. If you give simple answers, yes and no answers, if you give yes and no answers and just direct answers, you stand a tall chance of not making the high band as expected, because they want to see how effectively you can communicate. And so you can clearly see that we have always been told it is good. You can talk, you don't have to be giving direct and simple answers, because if you continue doing that, you will definitely lose a lot of, you lose the chance of scoring a higher band. But that doesn't mean that you should also be talking anyhow. There are some mistakes we make in order to be able to express ourselves. We end up saying things that are not necessary. Note for one thing, you are supposed, the examiner is supposed to go for 3 parts of the IELTS test, and all is going to take the span of 11 to 15 minutes. So if you are going to waste all your time on one session, it means that it's going to affect the examiner and yourself. So please, you work according to a given domain. When we get there, we'll look at some of the common mistakes that we've been making, and then how to correct it in order to be able to score and get the higher band. Good. Now we're looking at the techniques to answering the speaking test 1. The first one is that you will talk about 3 common topical areas. Good. So the topical areas, the common ones, means that it's going to be maximum of 3. It can be 2, but it's going to be 3 topical areas which you are going to talk about. It can be your family, your studies, or your job, or your interests. Any 3 can be chosen at any point in time, and you'll be made to talk about it. Now, if the 3 have been chosen, how does it go? First, the first part is the introduction. The introduction you are going to have 2 to 3 questions. I've told you that we are going to answer as many as 10 to 11 questions in all. 10 to 11 questions in all, in general. So the introduction, there will be about 2 to 3 questions about introduction, about your name, where you come from, or about your name, spell your name, how do you prefer yourself to be referred to? Those tiny ones. Yes, you know how to introduce yourself better. So about the introduction, you are going to have 2 to 3 questions over there. Then we are left with other 2. So another question will be chosen. It's not you who is going to choose it, it's the examiner. So he will decide the one to choose. So when that one has been chosen, then there will be 4 questions on that aspect. What is your favorite food? How is your favorite food being prepared? Or you are being asked questions about a festival. What is the festival you have witnessed? So about festival you have witnessed. How does the festival relates to your culture? A lot of things can be asked. I'm talking of familiar things or common things, general things. Most often, when questions are being asked on religious or religion background, you just have to have knowledge on all forms of religion. At least if you are Christian, you can have a lot about Christianity. And if you really want to also talk about the other aspects, Christian doesn't mean that you don't need to have knowledge about other forms of religion. We've got a traditional religion. Yes, it's good to also have an idea about it, the Islamic religion and what have you. So that when questions are being twisted, probably by your speech, when you are talking. In fact, one interesting thing is the examiner is able to get most of the questions they ask from you as you speak. Because the more you speak, the more you bring questions for them to ask. So they have the scheme they are using, and they know the direction they are going. And again, one of the caution is that don't go to the examination hall with some prepared answers that, oh, I know about this. So luckily, as you are speaking, it ended there, and then questions started coming from that domain. Then you want to express yourself, trying to recollect whatever you have been taught so that you can bring it there. The examiner may know that you are trying to just like a copycat. So to avoid that, he will quickly change the question and you find yourself wanting. So when you go there, just be free, flow. Fluency is the key. Flow like water. See, flow like water. So flow, talk, and let the language come. The language will do the work for you. Good. So we also look at the last aspect, which is 3 questions. Now we know 2 have already been taken, so the last one will also be taken at this place. So the other question, then you're going to get 4 on that one also. So at the end of the day, then you know that what the general IELTS speaking test 1 has been done. Let us look at some of the common mistakes that are being done by candidates during these exams. Okay, so let us look at the common mistakes candidates are found of making every time they are taking the IELTS test. The first one is talking too little. That means they don't have complete answers when questions are being asked. For instance, you can be asked, who is your best friend? Then your answer is Kofi. The answer you have given is too little, because they want to know how effective you can speak the English language, how you flow, looking at the fluency, how you cohere, that the cohesion in your language, that is the linkage. That one is missing. So if you say, my best friend, who's your best friend? Kofi. The answer is too little or incomplete, because in this case it means that vital aspects in which you are going to be assessed on to be able to get the marks are missing. So you can't talk too little. Good. What of talking too much? That means if you can't talk too little, it means that you can talk too much. But look at it. Who is your best friend? When I was a small boy and I was living in my environment, a place in Kumasi, I was having a friend called Kofi. But when I went to the secondary school and I got to the boarding house, when I was sent to the boarding house, I met new guys over there. I met Ofori to be my best friend. But all along, after graduating from the secondary school and going to university, I went with one of my former classmates, which is called Buedu. Then we got to the university, but unfortunately we did not do the same course. Then you are rambling, man. That is not what is expected of you. You are talking too much. You are going off topic. The question is, who is your best friend? So all those things you are talking about, the beginning, the past, the present and the future, those things are irrelevant. They are all irrelevant. You just have to go straight to the question. Then you have to give, you answer the question directly, then you give about 1 or 2 details about it, then that is done. Mind you, I've said it earlier that the examiner is working with time. So don't be talking too much till he tells you to stop before you stop. No, be able to finish talking and give him the chance to ask the next question. It is very, very important. So some mistakes that we'll be making are unpardonable and we don't have to be encouraging that. Good. Okay, so let us look at the technique. That is my technique that I say candidate can use to approach the IELTS speaking test 1. My first technique is that answer the examiner's question directly. 2, support your answer with a reason, example, or extra detail. Stop talking and let them. So this is my best technique that I always encourage my students to try and use when they are preparing for the IELTS test. These are the first thing is you answer the examiner's question directly. When the question is being asked, you have to answer the question directly. 2, support your answer with reason, example, or extra detail. And last but not least, stop talking and let the examiner ask his or her next question. Let's take an example. Let's say, who is your best friend? Okay, my best friend is Frederick Ntori. Ntori is my friend because we happen to attend the same primary school. We ended up in the same secondary school, and we graduated from secondary school and entered the same university. One interesting thing that upon completion of university, we found ourselves in the same job. We have been friends from infancy and we'll be friends for life. I've talked simply, not to add any extra details that is going to give me a problem. So those are some of the key things we are trying to say. Just go directly straight to the question and answer the questions directly so that at the end of the day, you will be able to give the examiner the chance to ask the next question. You are working with time and know that time is very critical. Good. This is where we bring our IELTS speaking test 1 to a close. If you really want to join us and take more questions and detailed explanation to some of the past questions from the British Council and join our study group, you can log on to our website www.debguide.com. You have more information over there. You can also like my page and also send me a friendly request so that you join me and I will give you the directives on how to go about it. Further information will be added to my address. Thank you very much for cooperating and taking part of my lesson. Good afternoon.